Basketball Manitoba Podcast, we have Ilarion Bonhomme. He is currently the head coach of the Brandon Bobcats women program. He played his high school basketball at Cardozo in Washington, D.C. He then went on to play at the Brandon University with the Bobcats, where he played for 3 seasons. There, he was named Canada West Rookie of the Year. He then transferred to play his last 2 seasons with the University of Manitoba Bisons and helped the program return to excellence, earning their first trip to nationals in over 30 years after securing a silver medal in the Canada West playoffs in 2018. He then went on to play internationally for 6 seasons, playing in Norway, Australia, Sweden, Ukraine, Spain, and then the United Kingdom. In 2024, he retired from playing and was named the head coach of the Brandon University Bobcats women's program. Ilarion, welcome to the program.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited about this. I've been looking forward to it.
Let's go. I love it, man. So we were talking offline. I said, man, I think, I've been I follow Basketball Manitoba, I'm a little bit out of the game, but I asked you, I said, did you just go straight from playing to coaching? And you said, yeah, it's kind of crazy. So, I want to kind of start with that. You're halfway through this, this current season, but talk to me about what that was like. Just jumping from like a player right into being a coach of a college program. And more importantly, maybe just focus on why did you decide to do it?
Yeah, it is a crazy transition. A question I have to answer a lot,
Of course.
ironically enough, because as I'm recruiting, kids always ask like, "Oh, how long have you been coaching or at the university?" And then I have to give them the story. So, I guess we'll walk it back to your kind of bio introduction. A lot of times when you're playing professionally internationally, I was fortunate enough to have a couple contracts or whatever, but I would never made like $1 million or big money like that. Yeah, I paid the bills or whatever, but to supplement you playing to make extra money on the side, you can do things. And a lot of coaching, like grassroots stuff, and then started. Then I started kind of work with the women's affiliate of our men's team. Then I work with some of my teammates doing one-on-one work, doing film breakdowns, especially on the latter end of it. And I would actually do video breakdowns like scouts for our team, and I would do scouts for other teams in other leagues while I was playing. So like I said, especially on the back end of it, I really, really got into the coaching. And I knew I wanted to do it. So I always told people like when I was done, I wanted to be a coach or a professor. So yeah,
Got
I
it.
saw.
Okay. That makes sense though. That makes sense. And I figured as much too, because I knew, like I think I seen you doing stuff, but then also playing, obviously social media and things like that. And so when people ask you that question, the simple answer is I didn't go from playing to coaching. I was actually coaching and playing at the same time. And so this
Yeah,
transition isn't as surprising as it may seem. Yeah.
exactly. That
Yeah.
would be the easy answer. But
That's
then
like the short answer.
then they're like, you just posted a highlight tape 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, listen. But no,
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So I've been coaching. I love coaching.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So yeah, no, and how's the like this year been so far, man? Like talk to me about that. If
Uh,
again, this is your first year coaching like this though, like as a
mhm,
like a you're a coach, it's a program.
exactly.
It's
Yeah.
and it's on you, so that's a big mental
Mhm.
shift. How has
Yeah.
it been adjusting to that?
Yeah, I think just like you said, coaching in this capacity I never done. Like my program, I have to build a culture, and stuff like that. But it's been good. It's definitely I've had to take some lumps and my players have to deal with my growing pains. But I think we're moving in the right direction. The main thing, especially for this first year, is just like putting that culture and just setting expectations, setting standards. Because my situation was kind of unique getting a job so late. A lot of these kids didn't know who was going to be their coach. So,
Mm,
they didn't get to have those conversations with me for months and months like that you would in a normal recruiting cycle. So it's a huge adjustment period for them. So I try to be cognizant of that. And of course, they give me a lot of grace because, like I mentioned, they have to deal with all of my growing pains. But we're moving in the right direction. We ended the first half pretty well how we wanted to. We got our first 2 wins in Canada West regular season play. So yeah, we're excited.
That's good. That's good. And so talk to me about this then. I mean, you obviously you get hired and everything like that. What was when you're thinking about your coaching style, like, who was the first person you called? Like, man, I gotta get some coaches here. I need people to help you and support you. So I don't know. I didn't go look at the assistant coaches. So what is your assistant coaches what's the roster like for coaches? And what was the first call that you made when you got the job?
First basketball call I made? Because
Yeah,
I
like
talk about
yeah,
loved ones. Okay.
of course, of course. Like the basketball one, you're like, hey, because we have mentors, right? Like who are you calling when you're like, all right, I'm a coach now. Who'd you call?
Okay. So before I called the coach, I called players. I got the job, and I was like, there was a kid who was graduating from Piper Ingles. She graduated last year. Really good point guard. And I got the job, and I was like, listen, Piper, I know you're gonna have options. I just got this job. I need you to come back. And I didn't want her to entrust her last couple of years of her career with me because like she's a really good building block. So she was probably my first like basketball card because coaches are great and coaches do a lot. And I've been fortunate to have great coaches, but at the end of the day, players play.
Yeah, 100%.
Then my first basketball call was probably Kirby Shep
Of
because Kirby, of course.
course, of course.
Yeah, as a player, being exposed so many different coaches because I had like 8, 9 contracts overseas, and then I had 2 different university coaches, including Kirby. He is like top tier. Like he
Hmm.
really knows his stuff as far as when it comes to building culture, how to deal with those relationships within the team, giving players confidence. He was just such a good coach for me and like a good coach for other people. And like so I really wanted to pick his brain, kind of say, hey, what did you first do? Like, what are some steps? What are some pointers that you can give me? Blah, blah, blah. And even I should even backtrack it before I officially got the job. Like when I said, hey, I'm going to interview for this, he's the first
Mm,
person I called.
yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Kirby's obviously now, I would imagine he was a mentor then, but now he's still a mentor coach for you.
Oh, yeah, for life. For
Yeah.
life, for life, for
Yeah.
life. And yeah, he was the first one, but listen, I could go down a long, long list of coaches I called. Mike Rainbow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I talked to Gil Chung,
Yeah.
I guess all the Manitoba coaches. Yeah. Who else? Well, I feel like I'm not good. I talked to two of my coaches from Australia. Yeah, I made a lot of calls.
Okay. Okay. And so when you're reaching out to them, obviously in one part you're probably saying, "Hey, look, I'm excited. I'm doing this new thing, big step in my life, in my career." But on one end, were a lot of these calls also for, "Hey, like, I'm going to be calling you once in a while because I need some help, I need some guidance as well." Like, or is it one and
Yeah.
the same? Like, it's both, right? It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
hey, I need you. I'm excited.
100%.
I need
Yeah.
you.
100%. 100%. Like, hey, like I am not a finished product by any means. And
Yeah.
you did so much for me as a player when I was playing for these programs and when I was playing against these programs and when I was playing overseas. Like I hope I could kind of lean on you and pick your brain because this Manitoba circle, like U of M, BU, U of W, there's some really good coaches. So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, it was definitely it's exactly that. It was like I'm going to need help as I
Yeah.
build this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I love it. I love it, man. So, well, this is a nice way to transition, man, into your story. I mean, you mentioned it. Hey, I played all over. I have all of these connections. So you've
Hmm.
been around, right? You've played,
Hmm.
you've done the player thing, and now you're transitioning to this next part of your career, of your life. So I
Yeah.
want to take you way back though, and I want to talk about the early years when you first started the game. So,
Yeah.
what are some of your first basketball memories? How'd you get involved in the game?
I guess just trying to be around my older brother and trying to fit in. And just he was always on the playground. Like all of my earliest memories was just playing basketball with all of his friends who were 2, 3 years older than me.
Mm,
Um, During lunchtime, after school, late in the evening, outdoors, spending like 5, 6 hours on the blacktop. So yeah, that's those are my earliest memories of basketball. And I just
uh-huh.
loved it. Like loved the competition of it, loved the community of it. Yeah.
So what was it like in, again, most of the listeners are going to be from Manitoba, and probably a lot of us have not been to DC. So
Yeah.
what was it like when you're coming up playing, you said, you're playing on the blacktop, you're playing outside, playing
Mhm.
pickup games, stuff like that. What was it like kind of growing up for you in that environment? Was it really competitive? Were you always playing against other players? I don't know, just to give us a little bit
Yeah.
of a peek into what it would be like to play out there and
Uh,
come up.
it's like a movie, man. Like just super physical, super competitive. Everybody trying to win every possession. Man, it was just so much fun and just like freedom and just take my mind away from everything. Because I was
Mm,
a kid, I grew up with nothing. Nothing. It was tough times financially. So basketball was always my outlet. Like, tons of people say that. And I'm no different. Like when I was on that blacktop with my brothers and my friends and my sisters sometimes, like it would just take me away from everything. It's just always where I wanted to be. And then I just fell in love with like just the competition of it. And if I got beat one day, what can I do to get better? And I just, yeah.
so when did you really take that like in your mind serious where, you probably fell in love real early, like you said, it was all you did, but when did it become more of a serious thing for you where I'm pretty good, I'm playing, I'm competing? Because, you're a kid and then at
Mhm.
some point you're not a kid anymore and you start to be like, huh, this is different. Do you remember when that was?
So it's a little bit different in America.
Tell me.
So I would say that was probably like, and maybe it's getting like that now in Canada as Canada basketball develops. But way back when I was young, it was different. Um, Probably like the fifth grade.
Okay.
I was locked in. I was like, this is what I'm gonna do. This is it. This is it. Like, I don't want to do nothing else. And then just being that kid who didn't have money, like I saw a lot of my friends as we were getting older and older kind of say things like, yeah, like if I don't get a scholarship for basketball, I'm probably not going to school. Like my family can't afford it. I'm not trying to take out loans, blah, 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 blah. And then that kind of mindset set in with me. And then like so when I was playing, it was like if someone was trying to outplay me, it was almost like they were trying to take food off my plate. Like
Mm,
every time I played. So I fell in love with it early and I knew that basketball was gonna be like my vehicle to take me wherever I wanted to go.
yeah, yeah, it's crazy. Damn, it took you all over the world. Um,
Yeah, it is. It is crazy. It is crazy.
I love it. I love that. So then when was like when you were coming up playing you obviously playing high school and stuff like that, you said, fifth grade, you started to take it real serious. You must have had some mentors or some people that kind of kept you straight, whether
Mm-hmm.
family, friends, coaches. So who were
Mm-hmm.
some of those early mentors in those years where they kind of kept you moving or even taught you stuff about the game?
Yeah. While I was at while I was in high school in DC, Cardozo, I had two really good assistant coaches that I still talk to this day that are still mentors to me. Roger Garfield, he's a coach in DC right now. He helps with Gonzaga High School. It's one of the I think they're ranked second in the country right now
Yeah.
for high school basketball. Really good program. And then Christopher Flegler, he coaches at St. Joe's, a D1 school in Philly.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like those two guys early, like on the basketball side, they were just two people who kind of matched my passion for the game. And that was hard because I like really, really love basketball. Like loved it. And they're the same way, like big time basketball junkies. So those early year when I was young and in high school, they helped me out a lot. And then I had a really good trainer. I can't find his phone number. We disconnected. His name was Hanif Hill, big time trainer. I annoyed him so much, like to get in the gym because he was like a big time trainer. He would do guys like Ty Lawson, Kevin
Yeah.
Durant, Jeff
Yeah.
Green, all guys from that DC area. And like, so I would message him, hey, can I get in the gym? And he would say yes most of the time. But if he ignored my message, I would just sit at that gym door, the Boys and Girls Club, number 10, right next to Cardozo High School. I would just sit at the gym door and just wait. I'm gonna wait.
Wait
Like
till you shut up.
I'm waiting till you shut because I know he's coming because he love the game too.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, here we go, here we go, here we go. But nah, he was awesome for me.
Wow. So yeah, that's crazy. And you mentioned some of the people who came up, like DC is known for I mean, you just mentioned three NBA guys.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, like
Mhm.
just talent wise in the area, it must have been crazy. I mean,
Oh yeah.
playing high school. What were the high
Uh,
school? What were your high school days like? I mean, were you guys a good squad? Did you play with some other big players? Did you guys have any good runs? Like again,
oh yeah, we were good.
we don't know anything, right? We're in
Nah,
Manitoba,
of
we don't
course,
know.
I get it. I get it. It's tough.
Yeah, give us the info here. What was it like?
So DC is split up in three. So there's like the charter schools, which would be like technical schools and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Then there's the public high school league, and then there's like the private league. So the private league is probably this is WCAC. It's the most, I would say, the most competitive high school basketball league in the country.
Yeah.
And then the public league is also really high level basketball. A lot of guys going high major. Like two of my teammates were no, mid major, sorry. But yeah, really good basketball all around. So our team, we had a really good shooting guard. He at one point he was leading the country in scoring, Raphael Guthrie. He was getting like it was crazy. He was getting like 38, 39 a game. And way back in the day, you might know what this is, but maybe the younger audience won't. You remember Max Preps?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Yeah, of course.
okay.
Of course.
So we would always look on it to see where he was, and he was at the
Yeah.
top. He was at the top for like the first 2, 3 weeks of the season. So it was super cool. Yeah, he was, and like practicing against him every day. To this day, I kind of almost like obviously I played so much I forgot about like how competitive he was. Like he was like when people say a dog, like
Mm.
a dog, like physical, physical. I remember like so I transferred to Cardozo and like my first time, like lunchtime is when you hoop. Like you don't go eat, you go play like in the gym. And he saw I was a new kid. And when I say like he went at me like so hard, I was like what did I do? Like what did I do to you? And he was 2 years older than me. And he's like Darcy, like super physical,
Yeah, yeah.
really good defender. Yeah, so that was really good for me. He was a really good teammate to compete against. And
Nice.
yeah.
So then how'd you, so you said you transferred. Where were you transferring? Like, was it this a better school with the transfer or was it for other reasons?
No, just a transfer a little bit closer to where we were at.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Nice,
exactly.
nice. And how'd you guys do that year? Your last, I guess your last couple of years.
We were good. We made the playoffs. We were a playoff team, but we never went super far. So how it works is you play in that public league, so you play against the public school teams, and if you win that, then you go to the city and you play against whoever wins the private school league.
Got it. Got it.
Usually the private schools win because they're like
Yeah.
like you would have
Yeah.
heard of like
Of course. Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
Matha, St. John's, those
Yeah.
schools like really good.
Yeah.
Send
Yeah.
like every year 4, 5, 6 guys high major Division 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
100%. Okay. So the question, I mean, that I've been wanting to ask you
You're scaring
is,
me.
is like is the reason why, I mean, where you are right now is the Brandon thing. So how'd you end up at Brandon, man? You're all the way in DC. And then you're gonna go to, people see I travel quite a bit. People don't even know where Winnipeg is. Never mind Brandon. And
hmm
so tell us a little bit about the story about how you ended up with Brandon.
So I didn't know what Canada was.
Oh, yeah,
So
exactly. That's I didn't
so
want to say it. I'm happy you did.
so I can admit I was your typical very ignorant American. Not ignorant, but we just didn't learn about it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't in our school book.
yeah.
So I heard about Canada from in my high school. I was taking AP English, and my English teacher was really good friends with the chancellor of Brandon University. So he was a news reporter with either CBC or CNN, Henry Champ.
Yeah.
So they were really good friends. So he came to one of my games, and I played pretty well. And after the game, Henry Champ came up to me. He's like, "Hey, like you're a really good player, blah blah blah." And I'll tell you right now, I was like not the greatest kid when I was young. Like really, like I thought I was the coolest thing since sliced bread.
Yeah, yeah.
And he came up to me. He's like, I'm from Brandon University. I'm like, what's that? And he's like, we're a post-secondary school in Canada. And I was like, do they play basketball? Literally, do they play basketball in Canada? Like, where's that? And he's like, it's a good school. We have a really strong history of basketball, blah, blah, blah. And me being me at that age, I was just like, man, I'm good. Like, I'm okay, but thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
He's like, here, take my card. If anything ever changes for you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't need it. He's like, just take it. And I took it. And that summer, so I hadn't signed. I had big dreams, like every young kid in that area going Division 1. I got some interest. I got some really good D2 offers, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes as a senior, you could play AAU basketball, equivalent of club
Yeah.
basketball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I played. I did pretty good on the circuit. Still wasn't getting what I wanted. Kept playing, and then I sprained my knee, and so my summer season was done. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna go to JUCO, and I called one of the JUCOs that offered me, and they were like, hey, we're gonna change the full scholarship we offer you to a partial. And I was super frustrated with that, and that just happened maybe like 4 or 5 schools. And then at the end of it, I was just like over. I was really upset and frustrated. And some coaches were still in contact with me and wanted me to come, and were gonna give me like full rides. But I was just like, it wasn't schools I wanted to go to, and I was just like literally ignoring calls. Again, just a dumb 17, 18-year-old kid. And in the end, like I was like ruffling through my bag one time, my Hooper bag, and I seen the card. I was like, what, I'm gonna call this dude. Like it was late.
No.
It was Darcy, literally so late too. It would have been like, when did I get to Brandon? It would have been like first week of September or something like that. And I'm an
For
international,
real.
literally, and I'm an international student. I call him, I'm like, hey, like it's me. He's like, man, it's so late in the game. Like what happened? What's going on? I was like, yeah, I don't know. I'm just working. Like, I don't know. I want to try to see if I could make this happen. And my parents were really pushing me to, yeah, just go, try something new, blah, blah, blah. America didn't quote unquote work out for you the way you wanted. So he's like, all right, it's late, but give me some time. I'll see what I can do. Called me the next day. We met at Applebee's in Columbia Heights. And he was like, okay. Literally looked me in my eye. He said, are you poor? I'm like, what? And he's like, listen, you don't need to mince words with me. Like, I'm just here to help you, but I
Yeah.
just want you to know that I'm always gonna be honest with you, and you can be honest with me. I was like, yeah, I'm poor. Yeah, 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 I'm poor. And he's like, okay, um, here's what I'll do. I'm gonna call you tomorrow. Have your passport ready. I was like, oh, I don't have a passport.
Of course you did. Of course you had no passport.
He's like, I don't have a passport. And he's like, what? He's like, why not? I'm like, it's American.
Yeah.
Especially in that time. I just never thought about it. And so I got it. He said, you need to get a passport for this to work. I'm gonna do everything on my end. So I got a rush passport. I think it took maybe 3, 4 days, whatever, 5 days, something like that. My parents put together money and we just figured it out. And then he said, okay, you're good. I set up your residence. You could go to Brandon. They already have their American spots filled. At this point, it was 2, not 3 like it is now. And he's like, but you can redshirt, be part of the team, and who knows, maybe the year after, or you can just be in a school environment, whatever you want to do. But you're good. I figured it all out, and I couldn't like believe it because like I don't know how much you maybe don't know Henry Champ's story, but he was dealing with so much at that time.
Mm.
Like he had cancer, and he never talked about it. Never talked about it. To this day, I say like like that's like the only human that never disappointed, like never. You know how like people disappoint you, leaving your dearest one, your lovest one,
Yeah.
your mom, dad, guardian, whatever,
Yep.
partner. Like never, not one time in all my time knowing him, like he always came through me, always was there for me. And so yeah, and then I came to Brandon like mid-September 2010. Yeah. And I was a redshirt. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. The funny part for me, the part that I just like, again, I don't know if you believe if you're like one of those people, fate, whatever it is, man. I am supposed to wear people. You just had the card still and you just found it in your bag and like,
Hmm.
wow, let me call this.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
crazy, man.
it don't make sense. And like even telling that story now, like thinking back to how it all came together, it's just like wow.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. Thing got me thinking about that is, um, you mentioned like he passed you that card. He said, hey, don't worry about it. But like it's something to be said when you interact with somebody, you don't know when they're going to be ready. And if you're the type of person who's there, I mean, you're a coach now, so you're gonna have lots of opportunities like this. But it's
Mhm.
like it's your job when you're in those positions to just like keep the door open and just,
Yeah.
hey, this person might not be ready right now, but I'm gonna give them a chance. I'm gonna keep the door
Yeah.
open. Here, take the cards,
Mhm.
you're good. When you're ready. And maybe you would have never came, but you did. And it's like
Yeah.
those type of people are special, man. Like really,
Oh
those type
yeah.
of people are special. So I can tell he was obviously a very important person. And
Oh
getting
yeah.
you out to Brandon. So talk to me then. We're just gonna go right through this because it's funny. I just interviewed um uh another Brandon. This is not he's way before your time. Earl Roberts, the official Earl Roberts.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he's
yeah,
just
yeah.
funny.
So, and he came from Toronto, so same idea. Never been to Winnipeg, and he was telling me his story about actually getting to Brandon. So, I was laughing the whole time. He came out with his friend. He said it was culture shock, all this stuff. So, talk to me, man. Like, what was it like? You're now going to Brandon. You're
Yeah.
flying out there. Just walk us through it, man. Tell us the story.
So yeah, that was like my first flight flying to Brandon. I can't remember my itinerary. So I landed, he set up a shuttle for me. And on the shuttle, like as we drive Winnipeg to Brandon, I'm like, where am I? Like it felt like it was like a country western. Like I was seeing like those things that like
Yeah,
roll across the night,
yeah,
like
the tumbleweed.
yeah, the tumbleweed. I'm like, what have I done? And I just like, and we're just driving. That drive, Brandon, to Winnipeg,
Yeah,
Brandon, you don't see nothing. Like
no.
it's literally is nothing. Just like the bales on the farm or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
and then I saw a couple of cows. I was like, oh no. I was like, I don't know. And it was on the weekend too. So I get to Brandon. I get to McMaster Hall where I'm staying, and there's no one there. And there's an emergency number to call. I call it, whatever, blah blah blah. And they set me up in a dorm room. And yeah, I was just by myself. Checked in with my parents, and I was like, yeah, like this is real, real different. Like in that first couple weeks was tough because like when I first came to like Canada, like I had a really like strong DC accent.
Mm.
And like so people were like struggling to understand me. So I was like super frustrating. Super I was so mad. And I was like, I'm talking normal. It's y'all like
Yeah.
y'all need to figure it out. Something's going on. So yeah, it was wild.
That's great. So when you showed up, was the team just they were gone? Like they were on a road trip?
I can't remember exactly how it played out, but it
Okay.
wasn't like so obviously like I said, they already had their two Americans. So
Hmm.
Gil Chung, the coach now, was the coach then. So like I wasn't like on their radar or nothing like that. They weren't too worried about me. But I met with the advisor, Darcy Bauer, and she kind of told me like, okay, this is their practice schedule, blah, blah, blah. And then that first week I just showed up.
Mm.
And then like you could tell, like for sure, like Henry Champ told them about me, but they
Yeah.
was like kind of like, oh, he's
Yeah.
like he's like actually here, like what's going on? And yeah, so then I just practicing with them. It was cool. A lot of Toronto guys, and it
Hmm.
was it was nice to meet them because I kind of related to them a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Yeah,
And I
for
was
sure.
shocked because, like I said, I had no knowledge of Canada. So when I met people from Toronto, I was like, oh, like you are you are like me,
Yeah,
kinda. Like you know what I'm
yeah, no,
saying?
I
I'm
know
like,
exactly. Yeah.
I'm like, oh wow, and like you got a little slang to you, like blah blah
Yeah.
blah. So it was cool. And then there was people from Quebec there.
Yeah.
Nathan Grant was there.
Shout out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like a quote unquote melting pot. It was cool. It was
Yeah.
cool.
So
The team was,
yeah.
but
Who was on? Remind me, like Nathan Grant. Who do you remember? Any other players that were there the
yeah.
first year?
Nathan Grant, Jordan Reeves,
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Kyle Vince.
Yeah. Yeah. Comments. Yeah.
Um, you won't know the Toronto guys. I'm trying to think who else you might know.
I might. Oh, I know Toronto guys because I was around. I was around, like I
Okay.
was still around the game then, right? I just finished playing 2 years earlier, man. I was 2008. I
Okay.
graduated.
Gee, so maybe O'Brien Wallace. Oh, Donovan Gale,
Yeah. Yeah. Shout out
Debo,
Donovan. Yeah. Yeah.
Debo. David Antwi,
Yeah.
Kyrie Coleman.
Yeah, yeah. I remember this team. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Isaiah James, those guys.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
Okay.
is there any heavy hitters I'm forgetting? Heavy hit. Oh, James Elias,
Yeah.
big play.
Elias. Yeah. Big man.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So then when
yeah.
you came out there, and obviously, once you meet the team and everything, okay, you feel a little bit more things are starting to settle in. You're redshirting the whole year. So what is that like for you? And I'm kind of asking this because you probably have some players that are red shirts, or you will if you
Hmm.
don't. And there's a different mentality when you know you're not playing in games, but at the same time, you're probably trying to prove yourself a little bit, right?
Hmm.
So do you remember how you were kind of approaching everything, come from DC, or like, I'm just gonna kill everybody? Like, what were you doing? Like, what was your
Yeah,
mentality?
I'm just gonna kill everybody. But my mentality was never different. I
Yeah, it
treated
always stayed
it,
the same.
yeah, I treated it like I was gonna play on Friday and Saturday because it happens. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. Stuff
That's clear.
happens. Stuff happens. Like
It's
who
true.
like God, you never wish injury or nothing on them. Someone might decide I don't want to play basketball anymore. Like I
Yeah.
want to leave and hey, can you play now? So like I knew when Gil made those scouting reports, I knew him inside and out.
Mm,
Video sessions, I'm locked in. I know the plays from every position. Like I was like focused because I wanted to be ready just in case anything ever did happen and I needed to be able to play.
I got
So
you.
like
I
the
got you.
approach, like if you would have came, you wouldn't be able to tell I was a red shirt by how I approach things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. So then, did you know after that first year that you were gonna come back?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So, so why'd you come back? What
So
happened?
a lot happened. A lot happened. Jerry Hemmings
Mhm.
reached out to Kirby Shep.
Okay.
He got me a workout with U of M. So I
This is
went
that
to
first year. This is like after your redshirt year.
after the redshirt year because Gills, they were unsure. They're like, we don't know what we're gonna do, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. We still have these two imports, cool. Hemmings set that up. I went into Winnipeg. I worked out with them. And I thought I played really well. I thought I was like I thought I stood out. They saw a difference. So after the workout, Kirby met with me. He's like, you're a pretty good player, but you're just really similar to the guys we already have now. And he had Stephen Walton at this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fair enough, cool. Stephen Walton. Who else would have been on that team? Jonar.
Yeah.
They were a good team.
And they're a very guard heavy team as well.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
really guard heavy.
But in the workout, based on the workout, I thought, okay, I'm good. I thought for
Mm.
sure. But yeah, it didn't work out. And Kirby tells the story very differently. He says I struggled, and Kirby, if you watch this, you are not a liar, but by accident, you are bending the truth.
He's wrong. You can just say
Hey,
you're
he's wrong.
wrong, Kirby.
He's wrong. He's wrong. Kirby, you're dead wrong. I love
Yeah.
Kirby. Yeah, so that didn't work out. And then the old coach at Nate, he coached at Lethbridge. Wow. Was it Hanson? Hanson. I want to say Hanson. Old age, I'm
Okay.
forgetting his name. Hanson. He was at Nate, and I went out there for a workout, and they offered me, so I could have went there. And then I verbally committed to there actually,
Okay.
and then like sometime in the summer, Gil called me, and he's like, "Hey, like, what are you gonna do next year?" He said, "Oh, I verbally committed to Nate and blah blah blah." He's like, "Oh, okay." And I'm like, "What's up?" He's like, "Oh, because we were interested in having you back as like a playing spot." And so I was like, "Oh, like after seeing how they got to travel, seeing the players they got to play against, I really wanted to be a part of that." So I messaged the Nate coach. I was like, "Hey, man, like this is what's happened. They just called me. I verbally committed to your school. It is what it is. I'm gonna honor my word, but." It would be cool to have this opportunity because going to your school is kind of what I'm hoping would get me to the opportunity that is in front of me right
Yes.
now. And he was like, I'm not gonna hold you back. Of course we want you to come really bad, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But it makes sense that you would go take this opportunity. So he basically gave me his blessing to go ahead. And I was like super grateful and I apologized 1,010,000 times. And then I called Gil back. I was like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna come. And how that came to life is Kyle Vince and Donovan Gale met with Gale and was just kind of like, yeah, we could go get try to find another import, but he's been in our systems and he's a good dude.
Yeah.
And like, we want him around and he's just getting better and better and better and better. And so they kind of put in that word for me. And then yeah, sure enough, I was back next year as a player.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So there's a chance you could have went elsewhere.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy. So then in between this, you went back home, though, right? Back to DC,
Yeah, I was in
and then,
DC.
and you're just playing. So I gotta ask. So like, I want to talk about your first year, obviously, because it was a pretty successful one individually. But you go back to DC. You're playing up in Canada. You come back. You obviously have
Hmm.
friends, people.
Hmm.
Also, probably don't know where Canada is or Britain is.
Nope.
But what are you telling them about what you just experienced? Because we didn't even talk about the winter. And then
Facts.
and then but
Facts.
like what did you do for your off season? Like we just play, did you just hoop a bunch? What were you
Yeah.
doing? Did you have a different mentality or is it just business as usual when you went back?
Just just business as usual. Like I always approached like basketball as professionally as I could, even when I was young. Like
Mm,
I put the work in. So like I went home, I played in a summer league. It's called the Goodman League. And then I just played. It's an outdoor summer league in DC. Really, really good basketball. And I just trained, and then yeah, just
showed up.
like normal showed up.
Okay, okay. And then that year you won Canada West Rookie of the Year, right? So
I did.
you were, I'm just gonna assume you were starting straight from
Yeah,
redshirt to starting, right? So
yeah.
yeah, that's a big jump. I mean,
Hmm.
did you feel that you improved a lot from that time? Like obviously you didn't play your first year, but like the guys, obviously confidence, Debo go out and they say, Coach, man, like these guys improving, he's getting better.
Yeah.
Do you improve? Do you see there was a big jump or just it was just more opportunity? Like, look, I got to play, I was always that good, or was it a bit of both?
No, I got better. Like
Yeah.
I worked really, really hard. And then one person that made me like really push myself, O'Neal Gordon is still kicking around. Brandon, you remember
Of
O'Neal Gordon?
course, man. Of course.
So my first year, like, and I was a decent athlete, like okay quickness, okay speed, but I could not go by him to save my life, and I couldn't understand, and I couldn't get a shot off, and I was so frustrated, so frustrated. I'm safe saying this because if he heard this, his head would go like this, but I
Yeah.
know he don't. He's not on these platforms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he made me work harder and just playing against him because he would always come to our practices and we would play pickup. That helped me get better. And then yeah, so when I came back that year, I felt like I was ready. Like,
Mm,
mm,
yeah. So yeah, and obviously based off of what you've told me from the start, you're clearly someone who like works on this game, right? Like you believe
mhm.
because be honest, like this. There's players who believe in improvement, and there's players who don't.
Yeah.
There's some people like I just show up on whatever, but then other people who
Hmm.
work their butt
Hmm.
off. And it's funny you mentioned O'Neal because like I played like in my years we played against O'Neal, man, and
Hmm.
I played with him a little bit of 3x3 after, and
Yes.
man,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
lightning quick, man, like
Crazy.
just like
Crazy.
first
Crazy.
step, like crazy. But he was. I want to say he was like he was definitely getting triple doubles at times. I think he was flirting with quadruple doubles at times as well.
Oh
If
yeah.
yeah, he was
Hmm.
crazy. But so you come back, Canada West Rookie of the Year that year.
Hmm.
I don't want to fast forward through your 3 years at Brandon, but just for the sake of just the podcast and everything like that is.
Yeah.
Then we talk to me a bit about how it was actually as that first year when you're playing, you're winning Canada's Rookie of the Year, you're actually there, and then we can kind of transition as how to like you actually went back and you finished your years off at Manitoba. So
Hmm.
what was that those 3 years at Brandon like, and then maybe on the end why you ended up transferring to Manitoba?
Okay. Those that first year especially, I was like I said, I was just so excited to get the opportunity to play. Excuse me. Like we had a really good, promising team, and then one of our best players, Emerick Gravier, went down with injury, so that kind of not derailed, but made things much tougher for us. But for me personally, I was just trying to be aggressive, get in the lane, push tempo, and I had a lot of freedom that year to kind of be who I am. And one of our obviously Gil helped me a lot in those first 3 years, but also one of our assistant coaches, Jeremy Wallinga. Do you know him?
No, I
Maybe.
don't.
Okay,
No.
he's the head coach of Keano's men's basketball team right
Oh,
now.
okay, okay, nice.
Yeah, turned that program around. They won nationals last year. So he would get in the gym with me a lot, helped me get a lot better. And so I just kept progressing and progressing. And again, with opportunity. And then towards like the back end of it, I just like started learning more and more about basketball, more about myself as a player, more and more about just kind of what fits for me and what situation environment I think I could be successful in. And I think it reached the point where like BU wasn't Brandon wasn't that for me anymore.
Mm.
And so ultimately after my third year I didn't go back. Yeah, I had three pretty good seasons here. Um yeah, that I'm happy with that. I wouldn't trade for nothing because like, there was a foundation for me kind of building and building to the player I ultimately was able to become. But yeah, and then so after that third year, transferred to I stayed in Brandon, redshirted, finished my degree, and then I transferred to U of M.
Okay. Okay. So
And
there's
then
that 1 year off in between.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and in that time I talked to a couple schools, but at U of M, like a lot of guys were like, "Hey, you got to come here. You come here, we could be special. You're really feeling what we're trying to do." Like AJ Bassie, Keith O'Mara,
Hmm.
Wyatt Anders. They're like, hey, you come here, like we can really, really do something. And so, yeah, sure enough, went there. And funny, like, like a lot of players, like when they get frustrated with coaches and like, because when I first got there, I was coming off the bench, and I don't mind coming off the bench, but I felt like I should have been playing. But Kirby didn't give me anything, and he was super, super hard on me. Super.
Mm.
He's like, listen, you can't play like this. This isn't winning basketball, and this doesn't
Mm.
fit into how we play. And so for me, I'm like, man, what is he talking about? But like just trying to be a student of the game, I broke it down, watched film by myself, watched some film with him, and he's like, yeah, this is what you're gonna be good. This is what can help you be good for us. This is what can help you get better as a player. And then I just tried to apply it, and I just like looked at the gaps, kind of, okay, where can I fit in? What does our team kind of need that's going to help us win games and help me get on the floor? And then so what I kind of hung my hat on was I was just going to guard everybody 94 feet, pressure the ball, pressure the ball. I'm going to be a small guard, but I'm going to be one of the better rebounders. I'm going to crash and like just try to force them to play me. And then
Hmm.
sure enough, like my role just got bigger and bigger. First, that's a lie. First I was starting, then I lost it, and then I
Mm.
had to get it back. And then my role just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was able to finish like a lot of games. So yeah, and then
Yeah.
that 2 years at U of M were like basketball wise were so good for me.
Yeah.
And then
Well, I mean, what were some of the things? I know obviously the team had a bunch of success. I interviewed AJ and Keith and stuff. And but what are some of the things that you think that added to your game that made you the player that you became? So, like, obviously, in your first year, your redshirt year, you didn't have nearly the skills or the mental, or
Mhm.
there's these attributes that we add, to the toolbox as we go through.
Yeah.
So, what were those key ones for you?
It's like you said, just the mental aspect of it. I just got better and better, just breaking down what teams were trying to do, and just kind of try to be a leader. How can I put guys in the right position? So once they're succeeding, then that kind of opened things up for myself. Then I can kind of do my thing. And then we had a really good shooting coach, Surgeon. I don't know how to pronounce his
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
how to pronounce his last name. How do you pronounce his last name? He's gonna
I
kill
don't
me.
know. It's all good. No one says his last name. They just say
That's
Surgeon.
true, Surge. Yeah,
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah.
we had a really good staff. We had Soup too, super,
Yeah.
super
Yeah.
helpful for me. Like, he's a point guard. He was a point guard.
Yeah.
He's one of the best point guards in Canada West when he played
Yeah.
or in the country. So he was good. I got to pick his brain. We just had a really good support system. And having you guys around too, like, you would come around for alumni games and just
Yeah.
chat with us whenever we
Yeah.
see you on the street. Like those, like you, Ogo, those type of guys, like it
Yeah.
just helped me so much, just those conversations. And then just being in an environment where when I got to U of M, like it was like, oh, these guys care about like basketball, like I care about basketball, like
Mm.
Justice,
Yeah.
AJ, Malik, Keith, John Alexander. I'm like, they are like, so usually at Brandon, I would always like show up like hour before practice. I'm getting working, stay after, and then it was like 5, 6 guys doing the same thing, and like
Yeah.
Wyatt too. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is where I need to be. So then I just started working harder and harder because I didn't want them to ever try to say like they work harder than me. So yeah, that helped me get a lot better. Just those extra reps and then competing in those against those guys in practice just yeah changes everything. Like.
Yeah, 100%. So then that was obviously a special team. I mean, I mentioned the bio, the success. Manitoba hadn't had that success in years. So
Yeah.
what do you remember about that run? What do you remember? I
Uh,
heard because I asked other people, and it's always a crazy. It's just everyone's version is just insane. So what's your version?
it was so cool. It was so cool. Um, what do I remember most? The UBC weekend was pretty crazy. I'll start there. I remember doing our prep, and they were 19-1, number 2 or 1 in the country at this point. And like Kirby's doing his prep. I would always just go sit in Kirby's office and just kind of pick his brain. He didn't know I was picking his brain. We just ask him questions. She's like, man, Ilarion, they're tough. Like, how are we gonna beat these guys? And he don't never remember anything. I'm like, Kirby, we're gonna sweep them. Like, I'm bringing one pair of shoes. Like, we're just gonna sweep. He's like, you think so? I'm like, yeah, like we're gonna beat them. And then yeah, sure enough, we went out there and like we swept them. And they were a really good team.
Mhm.
Really good team. But we were just so engaged and like, yeah, we wanted to be the aggressors, kind of, quote unquote, be the team that punched first. And when we did that, like that feeling was like unbelievable. Like to go on the road and beat the number two, sweep the number 2 team in the country in their house, like, yeah, felt like rock stars.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So if I'm remember that AJ hit a big shot, right?
Hmm.
I think Keith or AJ, both of them kind of broke it down for me. And this happened, this happened. I was watching the
Yeah.
game online. It was
Yeah.
crazy, man. That
Crazy,
was
crazy
just
game.
yeah, just
A
crazy.
AJ hit the game winner. It was AJ.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh man, that's great. So then you keep going. I don't want to interrupt. So you
Um,
sweep them.
Sweep them. Then we go to Canada West Final Four, and we have to play against Calgary. And against Calgary, they had Thomas Cooper, a really good player.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure first team All Canadian.
yeah.
David Kapinga, really good point guard. They had 2 kids from Germany. They were really good, really strong. So going into the game, like I said, Kirby just playing the mind games and just everything, just being the guy that he was. He's like, okay, Larry, I'm like, we're gonna win. If you have a better night than their point guard, we're gonna win. I was like, oh yeah, like, and I appreciated that challenge. And I don't know, I can't remember the exact stats, but I played okay that game. But the coolest thing he did was, so the year before, we made it to the format was a little bit different. We made it to Canada West Final Four that first year, and we were playing We played Calgary first game. Yeah, we played Calgary first game, and they had a student section behind our bench, and they had those horns, and then they had the band to this
Hmm.
side. In
Hmm.
our timeouts, we literally could not hear Kirby. Couldn't hear Kirby. My ankle was broken at this point too. I don't know if you know that.
No, yeah,
And,
I don't
and
remember that. Yeah.
yeah, and we couldn't hear him. Like we had to take our seats a little bit further so we can try to hear him.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so the week leading up to Canada West Final Four, like Kirby brought this big speaker in the gym, and he's like blasting band music, blasting it, blasting. He's like, "We'll be ready, we'll be ready, we'll be ready." And sure enough, like right before the game starts, like they're just blasting music, and Kirby's like, "Shh." And we all just start clapping, 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 and
Yeah.
it was crazy. It was super cool. And then to beat the team that had beat us before to punch our ticket to nationals was just wild, wild. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Because you needed that one. That was the one that sent you to nationals, right? Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you guys finished. So who'd you play in the final again?
Alberta, they were
Alberta.
tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
tough. They were
Yeah.
really good.
Who
So,
was on that team? You remember?
uh, Austin, they had a really good point guard. I think he was from like Utah, Austin Wadoops, Brody Clark
Oh
when he
yeah,
was
Brody
young.
Clark.
Brody
Yeah.
Clark, he
Yeah,
was
I remember
young.
Clark. Yeah.
Um, I can't remember, but they had this really good like shooter. I can't remember the rest of the guys'
Okay.
names.
Yeah. So they were good though.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. They
And
were low.
was Barnaby coaching there already at that time?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Barnaby
so
was a coach.
a lot of Brandon, a lot of Brandon.
I know, right?
Um, so then, so what was nationals like? I mean, just obviously, just give us the short or long version, whatever comes to mind. Of you punch a ticket. Obviously, you lose that last game, but you
Yeah.
guys are happy to go. I mean, again, I taught 30
Oh yeah.
years program hadn't
Hmm.
gone. I
Hmm.
mean, I know basketball. Manitoba, like everyone in Manitoba was very happy. Obviously, alumni, we were very happy to see
Mhm.
the team succeed in such a quick time too, because Kirby hadn't taken over that long ago. So
Yeah.
it was a really big moment. But how was it as a player?
It was crazy. Just like, because I had some rough years at Brandon where you're winning 5 games, 6 games. And I'm like, we are one of the last 8 teams playing right now. So just being there and like, like we got shoot around and Carlton had shoot around before us, like knowing they're what they've done as a program and like, yo, like we're in the mix. Like we are here. Like it was just surreal, like just being in that environment. Out in that part of Canada, they love basketball. So just walking around during the day, like you just feel it, like the environment was just so different. And just watching other teams play, like it was just such good basketball. Like who was there? Ryerson was there, Carlton was there, Dalhousie was there. Um, yeah, it was just McGill was there. It was just so many good teams. And then yeah, that first game against McGill, you don't know much about the RSEQ. Like looking like us, we didn't know much about
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
But I'll be honest, with the McGill draw, we were like, okay, like
yeah,
we were happy with the draw, to be
yeah,
honest. And so that first game we matched up with them. When I tell you defensively, they were a nightmare. So I beat their point guard, go by, and every time I just get in the lane, like it was like I was seeing like 10 bodies, like just length everywhere, everywhere. Their
yeah,
help defense was crazy. And you just realize like, so there's levels to it. Like,
yeah,
okay, you're a Canada West playoff team. You play against some good teams, cool. Now you're Canada West Final Four team. You play against really, really good teams. Then the national teams are like, they're
yeah,
really, really good. The margin for error is gone.
yeah.
Like you gotta do everything so sharp with such a sense of urgency. Like you got to get to this spot and just be, yeah. And I think it kind of hit us like we weren't like, I don't want to say prepared because obviously our coaches did as much as they could, but just like, it's just an environment we hadn't been in yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
As much as
yeah,
we try to prepare, try to simulate it by practicing hard, it's different. It's
yeah,
different.
yeah,
And
yeah.
if I could make an excuse, we had a crazy travel. Like
Who-
only half our team made it, was able to make it on one day. The other half got delayed and had to travel here, 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 here.
really?
Yeah, that's why
Well,
we
I'm just like stuff with the airline.
no. It was weather.
Oh, okay. Damn.
Yeah, that's why we didn't win nationals that year.
Yeah, you have to say
No,
that.
that's my
But,
excuse.
that's a special thing, man. Again, like I said, you want to get to the highest level, and that tournament is the highest possible level you can achieve in
Hmm.
a U sport, right? So,
Yeah,
that's big time. Um,
yeah.
so that was your last year, right? That
That
year.
was it.
And
That
then
was
after
it.
that, I mean, obviously, I said read in the bio, you played all over the place. But did you
Yeah,
know that you wanted to play pro? Like, how did all that happen? Was it kind of
yeah,
like you got some
hmm
opportunities, or you knew already?
yeah. I knew I wanted to play pro the whole time.
Okay, so
Like,
then talk to me. How did that happen? Like, where'd you go first, and what was the process of like getting from Manitoba to playing pro internationally?
so ironically enough, same coach Chris Hansen from Nate. Was it Chris Hansen? His last name is Hansen. I can't remember his first name. What's the coach at UBC's name? Hansen. Is it Kevin?
That's Kevin Henson, yeah, in
Okay, so
UBC,
yeah,
yeah.
Chris. It's Chris Hansen then.
Okay,
He was friends with Kirby. Kirby was always trying to help us like find contracts. And I'll be honest, like it wasn't easy for me. Like, like obviously we had uh really talented roster, so our stats were like, I might average like 10, 11. Keith might
hmm
average 10, 11. So it was spread out. So when agents see that and coach see that, like, oh, but like, so like finding an agent was kind of tough. Finding contracts was kind of tough, but Kirby helped me out as much as he could. So Chris Hansen contacted Kirby, and there was a guy in Australia looking for players, and he was interested in me and Keith coming out, and he was more interested in Keith. And for me, I think it was kind of like a package deal type situation. but he was just talking to me throughout the summer, and their league is a little bit different. It started in February, March. You would get out there.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like, yeah, we're super interested in you. Our budget isn't crazy, blah, blah, blah. So from the season ending in March or April, whatever, in U Sports, I was waiting. No, I didn't get nothing May. June didn't get nothing. July didn't get nothing. August, September, October, November, nothing, nothing, nothing. And then finally, Australia came around. He was like, listen, like, we like you, but this is the offer that we can give you. But if you come out here and eyes get on you, a lot of teams are gonna like you. So I went out there and then worked out 2 times, had like 4 different offers, and ultimately went to Eltham Wildcats for my
Okay.
first season.
Okay. And how many years did you play there? Just 1 year? Or did you move
Just
around? Like,
one
how
year,
many years were you in Australia?
two.
2 years. Okay.
But
Okay.
I was in that team is in Melbourne, and
Hmm.
then this year, 2020, no, 2024. When was I? And then I played in Perth in May 2023. I
Yeah. Okay.
played in
Okay.
Perth.
Okay. So I know very little about the Australian League except for what Matt Koenig has told me. So
Okay.
this is NBL
One.
one. Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Got it. Got it. So,
Yeah.
so yeah. So explain just very briefly the levels, just so who people listening what that means. Like, I know
Okay.
there's like there's three, four, five, whatever. Explain it.
Tons.
Yeah.
Tons.
Yeah.
NBL is like one of the top leagues in the world.
Yeah.
LaMelo Ball,
Yeah.
at what's the guy who just went drafted number one? From
Man.
France, Sar or whatever, the kid.
Okay. Yeah. 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 It's a
Um,
good. It's this really good league. I know the
yeah, really
NBL.
good
Yeah.
league.
Yeah.
Like I said in the intro, I'm not that guy. I didn't make that kind of money. But I was in the NBL one, so the league
Yeah.
right under that. So, and it's ran at the opposite of the top league in Australia. So a
Hmm.
lot of those pros playing in NBL, the Australians play in the NBL one, like in the
Yeah.
spring, summer months. And
Yeah.
then each team gets 2 imports. So it's a high, high level of basketball. Super,
Hmm.
super high. And if you don't know much about Australia, Australia is like grassroots and just development, all that stuff. It's one of the best countries in the world. Probably like in a couple years, I think they'll like slowly start closing the gap with some of those other countries because just the
Yeah.
stuff they have going on. And you can see it right now in the NBA, how many
Yeah.
Australians are going there. So it was a
Yeah.
super, super high level of basketball, NBL one. Very, very
Yeah.
competitive.
Nice. Yeah. So yeah, now because again, Matt Conley, a good friend, he was telling me about all that NBL, NBL one, and he was said the exact same thing. Like NBL one's very, very competitive, and he said that
Mhm.
same thing. Players will come down,
Yeah,
and so they have. And he also said exactly what you said. Their development and like the care that they put into actually developing the game and all these leagues
yeah.
and the support and the money that's in it is like
It's crazy.
it's unmatched. Like
They
we're not even close to that in Canada. Not even
no,
close. It's like a
no.
different world, right?
It is. They
Yeah.
love basketball. They play
Yeah.
from like 3 years old, and then they have leagues for like 3, 4 year olds to all the way like leagues for like 65, like playing like full
Yeah.
leagues, jerseys. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
They care. Yeah, they care about the game. So, okay, so you played the 2 years there, and then walk us through because you played 6 seasons overseas, right? So two in
Mhm.
Australia. I had like Norway, Sweden, Ukraine, Spain, and the UK.
So,
Um,
so, so it's all different. Like it's
yeah.
like,
So tell me which. I'll just ask you some specific questions, and you can just go
okay.
wherever you want. One, basketball wise, where was your best experience as a player in those places, just from a pure basketball perspective?
I like competition. So I'm gonna say tie between Ukraine and Australia
Okay.
because the basketball levels were really, really high in those countries. Those would have been the two best countries I played.
Okay, okay. And then from a living culture,
Australia,
Australia
Australia,
without question.
not even close, not even close. Australia is the best place on earth. I would joke all the time. If it wasn't so far, I would live there.
Yeah, okay.
Norway's a close second. Norway's nice.
Okay. It was nice,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
Norway's nice.
That's that's crazy, yeah, because you've been all over, man. Like obviously Norway, Sweden in the same
Hmm.
area, Ukraine a
Hmm.
little more in Spain. You played in Spain as well, UK,
Hmm.
kind of all over Europe. What would be like the when we're thinking about obviously Australia, it's not too different than Canada, USA. Obviously, there's different parts, but you hear maybe like Ukraine or Spain, the culture is very different in Spain. What was the biggest culture shock place that you traveled in that was like it was just different than anywhere you had been?
So Ukraine was kind of tough because so it was during COVID. So I think the culture shock would have been worse if it wasn't during COVID. So there wasn't many people out. It
Yeah,
was hard still because my Ukrainian teammates spoke like no English.
yeah,
My head coach basically spoke no English. But
yeah.
we had three Americans, Canadians, and so it was okay. And I was only there for a month before I had a knee injury. But
Okay, so it was a quick stop.
Yeah, Spain was a culture shock too. And I could like speak a little bit Spanish, understand a little bit Spanish, but just like same thing. Like teammates, very little English, coach, very little English. And just my experience, like my teammates, um, kind of it wasn't as welcoming as some other places for me, which is it is what it is. I guess it's like people, it's a job, so like
Yeah,
you're competing for whatever. Um, but yeah, it was. I would say Ukraine or Spain was probably the biggest culture shock
yeah, okay.
in all those stops.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Mm.
Um, well, I mean, again, like your playing days. I mean, we started off the podcast, and I was like, let me, you're at Brandon now. But you decided to, you were obviously coaching and doing stuff. You had it in your mind. You told me, look, I wanted to coach. I wanted to, like, I knew I wanted to coach in the future.
Yeah.
Told me, yeah, I couldn't let this opportunity pass me by. So the bigger question I have, which you haven't answered, is why did you decide to? If you were literally just playing, what gave you the confidence or the push to say, I'm gonna put my name in the hat?
My knees started to hum a little bit. And my body was like, listen, man, I can't keep doing this. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not kidding.
You're not
They
kidding. I
did.
was gonna say
I'm
you
not kidding.
don't know. Yeah.
I'm not kidding. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They did start to get a little bit sore. And then it was just, always being away, living out of a suitcase, all the
Yeah.
flights. I got tired. And then like I said, I never made like $1 million. I was happy with experiences and the little money I was able to get, whatever. But like it reached a point where like trying to maintain to be a player at that level, it started to get tough for me. And like once it started to feel like this kind of feels like work now. And
Mm,
I was kind of like, I don't like how this feels. So it was weird for me. And I was like, I just felt like it might be time. Like, and it was hard because obviously playing is all I know.
yeah.
Um, but and then so while I was in UK, I got my master's. So now I'm segueing to why I felt confident enough to apply. I saw the posting, and again, some of the people kind of my mentors or people like helping me out, like Gil, Rainbow, Kirby, those guys. They said, "Hey, you got these certain qualifications. You should apply." And they're like, "Do you want to coach yourself?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course. It would be crazy." So I have my master's, and then I'm working on my PhD. And it was like, you got a lot of qualifications that maybe a lot of other candidates won't have, and then that coupled with your basketball experience internationally, you would have a shot. I was like, you know what? Okay, I'll apply. Worst case scenario, say I get shortlisted, I get to go through interview process, get those reps for future. So yeah, just went through it and poured everything I had into it, and yeah, I was fortunate enough to be offered it. And
Yeah.
crazier story than the card story. So obviously I'm American. To get offered a job, you have to basically they have to offer it to Canadians. I can't remember the exact rule or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so I went through a process and they're like, "Oh, but what's your immigration status?" And I did apply for permanent residency. But I hadn't had it yet. The day before they offered it to me,
Come on now.
I swear to you, the day before they offered me the job, I got approved for Canadian permanent residency.
Wow. Come on, man.
The day before, I was like, it's no way.
That's so crazy, man. That
So
is
when the president he retired, when he called me, he's like, hey, we want to offer you this job, but we had questions about your resident status. I was like, I'm a permanent resident. Straight like that. Craziest thing. And like you
Oh
said,
man.
like I do believe in faith. Like, I'm of religion, and I was like, yeah, moments like that. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah,
man. Something about Brandon, huh?
something about Brandon,
It's
and
just gonna say it won't let you go, man. Say, come back.
come
We
back.
need you here, man. We need you.
Yeah, exactly that.
That's crazy. So I just a few questions. So you obviously have some real good, like again, you mentioned your mentors, all
hmm
people who have gone through that process. So how in depth did you prepare for like the interview process? Like you're putting again, I don't know what it's like. So like you putting
hmm
together packages?
Yeah,
Are you just preparing for the potential questions? How many steps was it? Like what is that process of preparing for something like this? Because you had never done it before.
I've never done it yet. So first you gotta put your CV together. So all your coaching experience, all your certification, what you coach, like a resume, all that. Then you apply. You send in all your stuff. I can't remember the process. So then from all the stuff you send in, I think they didn't. I don't know the exact number. I think maybe it was maybe 10 of us who had like
Okay.
a phone interview. So I was in Norway at this point. I'm being interviewed. They asked me a bunch of questions. Some of these questions were like tough, like what would you do in the first 2 years of the program? What's the first thing you do on the first week of the job? Why can you do this? And it's like, um, why? I don't know. Just because I can.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Stuff like that, like tons of questions. I can't remember them all right now, but so
yeah.
I met with Kirby. I sat down with him and he's like, this is what they might ask you. Like, be prepared for this,
Mm-hmm.
this, 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 this,
Mm-hmm.
this. And he kind of outlined things for me. He's like, when I went through the interview process, these are some of the things I kind of faced. And same time, I had a couple of calls with Rainbow, and he kind of told me like, hey, you might be prepared for this question, this question, this question. And so yeah, went through that process. Then it was shortlisted, and it was four of us. And then we had to have on-court practice.
Okay.
And my on-court practice, in hindsight, I think I could have did better. It's always tough because like terminology is so different, and I've been traveling, and then
Yeah.
a lot of the kids who came to that practice were kids who signed, and they're from high
Mm-hmm.
schools in
Yeah.
Manitoba, so it's
Yeah.
it's like completely different.
Yeah.
So when I say, hey, like run this Spanish pick and roll, they're like, what's that? Like, and
Yeah. Yeah.
and a situation like that, they only gave us 30 minutes for this interview, and so you kind of want it to flow more, and you just want to show that you can kind of develop these kids and put a couple things in place. And I felt like I could have did better, but finished that process. And then after that, 2 days later, you have to give like a presentation to like a committee of like 10 people. So
Yeah.
I'm at a screen like with a PowerPoint and just like kind of outlining why I'd be good for this position, a couple things I would do to kind of start building the culture and building the program up. Um, and then you go through that process like an hour. No, it's not an hour, maybe like 30 minutes. And then they open the floor for questions from that committee who's there, but there's also people on Zoom, like
Oh
play
wow.
ex-players, current players, people in other departments who can ask you questions based on your presentation. So I got a couple questions from that. And then after that, another 30-minute segment with that same committee where you're sitting at the table and there's just 10 of them surrounded around each other at a big
Wow.
table, and they're asking you questions, and it's like, yeah. And that was difficult too. Just basically like things like you would get at a lot of
Yeah.
jobs. Managing
Yeah.
conflict, yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy, man. Like that was, I'm happy that you were able to paint that picture, just giving the listeners an idea. But I mean, obviously it was selfish for me too. I'm like, what's the process? Like I knew it
No,
was
you're
going to be a
good.
process. I knew it was like there'd be this,
Mhm.
there'd be this, there'd be this, there'd be this. But I mean, obviously, you said you're doing your PhD now, you have your master's. I mean, you're gonna have to defend your thesis. It's kind of probably some similar to that, right? Hey,
Probably.
you know,
Hmm.
they're challenging you a little bit. You have to know
Yeah.
what's you have a plan, but sometimes you just have to know because that's part of it. Like you
Exactly.
should know some of this stuff. That's crazy.
Hmm.
So you passed. So when did you find out? Like how soon before? Like they you finished that last thing, and now you're just waiting. You get the call. How what's the timeline between all that?
Might have been like a month. No, 3 weeks to a month before I got the call.
Okay,
Hmm.
man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Well, you made it, man.
I made it. Here we are. Here we are. Now I'm
Oh,
trying
that's
to.
cool.
Now I'm trying to keep it.
I was gonna say, yeah. Now you get your next challenge. I mean, it's a huge shift in just your life as well, man. Like it's
100%.
a big time. You think your knees are sore forward, man. You better keep moving, man. That's one thing I hear from a lot of coaches because they just stop training, stop moving, and
Uh-uh.
you gotta keep moving, man. Stay in the gym, stay working out
hundred
at bare
percent.
minimum.
Yeah, yeah. I went to
Yeah,
yoga. I went to yoga
there you
class this
go.
morning.
I love
I
it.
might go hoop this evening. Don't
There
worry.
you
I'm
go.
back.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, good, good. Well, we're coming close to the end of this, man. Again, I appreciate just hearing the story
Of
and
course.
and listening to the journey that you've been through. It's interesting because if this podcast or some version of this podcast exists in 15, 20 years, that whoever it is might just interview you again because you have your whole coaching career ahead of you, right? This is just like a next journey in
Crazy.
the basketball career. Because how old are you again, Larry?
33.
Hey man, you're a young boy. You're a young boy in the coaching world. You're like a kid. Some of these coaches, man, they're like 50-year-old men and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
men,
it's
men
true.
and women out here. So you have a lot ahead of you. And it's exciting. But I want to wrap up the podcast with a bit of advice. I always like to ask a bit of advice, just to people. And so we're going to focus mainly on your playing because I think you had a very unique playing career, just a love for the
Mhm.
game, a passion for the game. Um, so
Mhm.
I like to frame it this way. So imagine you're in a room and there's a bunch of young players, all right, maybe like, the provincial team, or think of something
Yeah.
back in DC where you're presenting like, hey, we have Ilarion, he's done this, 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 and, he wants to share some words with you about the game.
Mhm.
And whenever we have these types of situations, like, you speak to people, they don't remember everything,
Yeah.
they might remember one or two things. And
Mhm.
so what would be one or two or even three things that you'd want those people who came to listen to you talk to walk out of that room remembering, that relates to, like, basketball and their place in the game?
As far as players,
As players, yeah, you're talking to young players,
okay.
yeah.
First of all, just I know cliche or basic, just work hard. Like work really, really hard. Like work really hard. Like never make a coach, a teammate question like, I can't shoot, whatever, shots aren't going in. But my effort is always there. So that gotta be your base and foundation for everybody, or it should be. And it's not for a lot of kids. And I think like now as I'm going through recruiting stuff, I see a super talented kid, but they're like jogging back on defense. Like
Mhm.
they're just taking plays off. Like you just can't do that because, and I tell my players and people have told it to me. I can't remember the first place I heard it. Like someone might come see you play, not even a coach or like anybody, and like it might be their last time or first time seeing basketball. Like
Mm.
what pitch you wanna leave for them? Like you want to be the person like, oh, that's how basketball is supposed to be played. If you're that person, like I feel like a lot of opportunities will come to you when people
Mm.
are just like locked in on how you work.
Yeah.
Number two, treat the janitor the same way you would treat the prime minister. Even if you don't like the prime minister, use another, use another analogy or metaphor or whatever. But just treat people right because like with a lot of my contracts, yeah, I did some of them with agents, but so like a couple of them. So I played 6 seasons, but I probably signed like 10 contracts in those 6 years. Like so many of them just word of mouth. Like, hey, Alarion was with us. Like he's awesome. Like he's good to people. Like, hey, bring him in. Like he's not gonna be no trouble. He's gonna compete every day. Really good player. So once you treat people the right way, you start building a network and you have people as a support system because like getting through as a basketball player and getting to different levels, like you only can do so much on your own. Like it's hard. It's hard, hard, hard. Like I can't tell you how many friends and players I talk to be like, oh, like I'm better than that guy. Or like, why is he there? Maybe because he hand wash the GM's car when the GM was too busy or needed something like that,
Yeah.
Just treat people right and build contacts, build a network, Last piece, I don't know, what can I say? So much, Dice. You put me in a box.
It doesn't have to be three. It's just, three is a nice number, but
3 is a nice number.
the first two are great though, man, because it's
Mhm.
like you're speaking to the fact that people respect people who work hard, because if you work hard, you're actually adding value
Mhm.
just by the
Yeah.
nature of you doing the thing, and whatever comes from that's going to be positive. And then the respect thing is like, I mean, we opened up the podcast and we essentially ended the podcast with you saying, man, my network of coaches and people that I talk to, and I said, who'd you call? And you're like, I called Kirby and this person.
Yeah.
That's because you live by that rule, man. Like, people like you, you respect people, right? You work hard, and that's going to take you a long way in this world, right? If people look at you and say, hey, we like him, he respects us, he respects the game, and he works hard. I mean, what more can you ask? So
exactly.
Yeah.
And once you respect the game and work hard, you're gonna see progress. Progress is gonna come.
That's exactly it. I appreciate hearing your story. It's an interesting one. The Brandon thing's tripping me out. It's like the I didn't believe, like, the story of the car on this random party. I keep picking it up, like, you just had it in your bag, man. And then now for you to come full circle and be back there,
it don't make sense.
It really doesn't, man. But it's like you said, you're a man of faith, and faith has brought you here. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk. Obviously, good luck in the rest of the season. And I'm hoping that if I'm still doing this podcasting thing with Basketball Manitoba in years from now, that I get to interview you again, and we get to kind of catch up and see how far you've come and what you've learned, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years down the road. So I appreciate you.
I hope so. That would be great. Thank you so much for this. It was cool just kind of reminiscing and bringing back some of those stories, and really fun. I hope the audience can take anything away from this, and it's a really cool platform you guys got going.
I appreciate it.
I'll see you in 5 to 15 or what?
Yeah, well, hopefully before that. All right, man.
All right,
I appreciate you.
Of course.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share this series, and reach out to us with your comments on the show. Thanks again for joining us.